Hello, and welcome to the first of what I hope to be a continuing series of game reviews. Today, we have Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 3. This is the True Despair version, but every version is the same. This is specifically a review for the PS3 version, although I imagine that the 360 version and any other version is basically the same, apart from the fact that, the controls were obviously on different buttons. But without further ado and any more rambling, let's review this shit. The story of Ultimate Ninja Storm 3 picks up right after where Storm 2 left off, namely the fight in the destroyed Hidden Leaf village with Pain. The plot follows the main points of the story as shown in the anime, thankfully missing many of the fillers along the way. The story in Storm 3 begins as you walk around the Hidden Leaf village, then head to the Kage summit in the Land of Iron. Anyone familiar with the anime should know where this is going. As for those who have not watched the anime or not watched much of it, the game gives a fairly good representation of the story, missing very few things really. Though do keep in mind, as of the time of making the review, the game does finish further on in the story than the anime is up to currently. So if you don't really want to spoil any of the anime for yourself, I wouldn't suggest playing past halfway through chapter 9. But if you're a reader of the manga, though, I think the game finishes before where the manga is currently up to. As for the way the story is told, namely cutscenes, the game does a brilliant job. They've essentially recreated many scenes from the anime with the cutscenes in this game, going as far to sometimes even redo the anime shot for shot. Though the cutscenes are amazing and really do add vibrancy and colour to the story, it can at times get very tedious if you've already watched the anime. One part in particular, the scenes dealing with the birth of Naruto and the sacrifice of his parents, literally goes on for around half an hour of non-stop cutscenes. The game has three main modes: story, free play and online. All of these are fairly self-explanatory really. Story is where you will undoubtedly spend most of your time. In fact, the story will take you a good 12 to 15 hours to complete, not counting the side missions available after finishing the story. Free play allows you to fight either against an AI opponent, a friend, or even lets you pit two AI characters against each other. Lots of the characters available in the mode is unlocked through story mode, or from collecting coins, though being a story mode is the main focus of the game, there's not much point of unlocking them by the latter method. Online mode is, as you'd expect, the mode in which you can battle others online. This is the mode I spent the least amount of time on, and to be honest, doesn't seem to work amazingly well. Due to the focus on timing-based actions during fights, the online lets it down as there is noticeable lag, at least from my experience, which kinda makes it feel a lot less fun, a lot more focused on hoping that your opponent's connection is slower than yours. The game itself has two modes, especially in story mode. There's the roaming mode, where you walk around areas talking to people, buying things from vendors, and generally making your way to your destination. And then there's the fighting. The roaming mode is fairly good, though with a fixed camera in most areas you will sometimes spend half a minute wandering into a distance, where all you really see is the tiny speck of a character you're controlling. When the roaming mode works well though, it looks really good, allowing you to wander around many of the environments seen in the anime. As for the fighting section, it's very similar to Storm 1 and 2. You have your main characters and up to two support characters that can be called on to do an attack when their icon glows. You generally have one attack button, one ranged attack button, a jump button, and a chakra button. When you have enough chakra in your gauge, you can hit triangle and load one level of chakra. On the first level, you can do a special ninjutsu attack, throw special items, or dash your enemies. Loading a second level of chakra allows you to pull off the ultimate jutsu. This is essentially the big flashy finisher for each character. There are other aspects of the fighting, though you'll pick that up through playing really, there's not much point in going through it in this review. All in all, the fighting's very responsive, and many aspects of the fight you need to take into account. It's a lot deeper than it first appears really. While many fights feel rather easy and no real challenge, others can become incredibly tense, and may even take a few tries to win. As you can probably tell from the video in the background, the visuals are amazing, although it's slightly odd to see all of the 2D characters rendered in a semi-3D way. It's also pretty cool, especially when they're put in motion. Another reason why the visuals work so well is the colour. The grass looks alive, the deserts look truly perilous, and whenever there's thunder or fire on screen, you always get the feeling of its power. It's almost a shame that the fighting is so fast, really, as it's somewhat difficult to make out the details of the characters. While on the subject of characters, actually, Storm 3 contains a great attention to detail in that respect, with each character having at least one or two different costumes, with others having up to 10 or so. All in all, the visuals for this game are truly awesome, possibly some of the best I've ever seen on this generation. This is admittedly going to be a very brief section. The voice acting in this game is superb. I've tried both the English and Japanese voices, though I do prefer the Japanese as it's what I'm used to from the anime, really. However, it does seem that regardless of the language, they have the cast from the anime voicing the characters, which just adds the authenticity to which this game applies itself to in comparison to the anime. As for the music, it's quite well done, though the soundtrack is not taken from the anime. It certainly does seem to have a similar vibe to the anime, though. Mixtures of traditional Japanese music and more modern things such as guitars and synths. While the music is pretty good, and having the soundtrack CD, I've had a chance to listen to a lot of it. Within the game, it's not particularly represented. Really, the only time you get to listen to the soundtrack properly is either during silence between dialogue, or by pausing a fight midway through, which either way isn't particularly great. There are also the overworld themes that'll play when you enter certain villages and such, but they do get very repetitive, especially the Hidden Leaf theme. After about 10 hours of listening to it, it does start to really grate. The lifespan of this game, as mentioned earlier, is pretty damn good. The story itself should take you between 12 to 15 hours to complete, depending on how much you want to get out of it, really. After the completion of the story, there are numerous side missions to do in and around the Hidden Leaf village. By the time I finished doing all these, I had clocked in around 32 hours, which is pretty impressive for a fighting game, really. The inclusion of free battles and online mode makes the lifespan of this game huge. The time of the creation of this video, I've only really dabbled playing as a few characters, and free play allows you to play as over 50 characters, which will no doubt last me at least another 2-3 hours, just to test everyone out. All in all, the lifespan is superb in this game. The replayability is, however, not quite as good. Whilst it's possible to go back and do story missions again and unlock secret factors, which are brief cutscenes which are unlocked by doing certain actions at certain times, it's not a great incentive. The addition of trophies helps with this, as replaying missions to get a higher rank can net you some trophies, but really, unless you're massively dedicated to getting loads of trophies, there's not too much in the way of replayability. For the overall score, I'd say that Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 3 is a 9 out of 10. The pros are that it sticks perfectly to the plot. Visually, it looks amazing, possibly the best looking anime based game on the PS3. And the fighting is quite fun. There's plenty of variety in the different characters, and it has way more depth than it may first appear. The cons are that after the story, the content is certainly bulky, but ultimately leads nowhere, and that some characters are incredibly difficult when playing as certain characters. A particular annoyance is playing against Deidara when you're not a ranged character or can't move fast. In conclusion, it's an awesome game that I highly recommend to any Naruto fans, and even possibly to anyone curious about the series. Though the plot is pretty thick at this point, so if you are curious, I'd suggest possibly playing Storm 1 or 2 first. As for those who don't really like the series, there's not much here to change their mind, but for the fans and for those who really like just fun fighting games, really, I'd say this is almost a must-have. Thank you for watching, and possibly maybe subscribe if you liked the review. I may be making more and such. Until next time, goodbye.